All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started. It's a bit of a late crowd, bit of a slow crowd today. So I'm Zach Gunner with Global Vision. Not sure how many of y'all went to my net neutrality talk. Um, so I am from Greenville, South Carolina, and I work for a company called Global Vision. It started as a dial-up ISP in 1996. We had um, I wasn't around then. I was born in 1990, so why don't we go and preface that? I wasn't with the company then, but they had a T1 that they used for their internet connection, and then had a bunch of phone lines coming in for people to dial out to the public internet with. Today our clients range from large companies to we have about 40% of our customer base is residential. The other 60% is commercial. We do everything from a 3 meg residential connection to we got a 100 by 100 dedicated connection to a business. And we're particularly a wireless ISP. So that means our last mile access method is some form of wireless technology. And we're not a mobile carrier. Our wireless is fixed. So we install a piece of equipment on a building, and then it points up at one of our towers. No, our equipment is actually 5 gigahertz based, and it uses the 802.11 spec. I also do Greenville Towers, which is a offshoot for some of the work that I do. And what Greenville Towers do, it's tower climbing, climbing cell phone towers. That is me on a very cold day fixing a Ethernet drop because another cell phone carrier damaged it when they were moving their own equipment. It doesn't look that high until you see it from my point of view. That is this first set of arms right here is at 100 feet, so that is about 130 feet in the air, and the cars look kind of tiny from there. Um, um, what's unique about running a wireless ISP is we're a small company. We have I think nine people. And so there's not a whole lot of that's not my job, or that's not in my job description. And so prior to me coming to Global Vision, we had to pay someone $50 an hour to do this work. And this work, some of this, this could easily be an 8-hour job to install one antenna, because particularly running the cable on the tower can be quite difficult because it has to be secured every 5 feet down the tower. And that could be a 2-hour job just by itself. So I got trained. I went down to Georgia and became a certified tower climber. One thing interesting about tower climbing is fire departments are not your friends, because they do not know how to rescue you from anything above their ladder truck. Basically they'll pull up their ladder truck, go, oh shit, we can't get up there. And then that's where the problems start. There was a case in California where a guy was on a cell phone tower. He was 135 feet in the air, and he fell, and his harness caught him. So he's now hanging 6 feet. So he was out on a platform, and he's now hanging 6 feet below the platform. So he can't pull himself back up because he can't actually reach. And so the fire department's called. They come, they pull up their ladder truck, and they raise it. Damn, it's only 100 feet. So then they call a construction yard, rental company to get a cherry picker man lift. It's only 120 feet. So finally, one of the guy's coworkers called another tower climbing company that was 2 counties over. It took them 45 minutes to get there, and within 10 minutes of being on seat, that tower company climbed up, rigged ropes, and rappelled down and lowered the gentleman down to the ground. So the moral of the story with this is you cannot count, doing tower climbing, you cannot count on local fire and rescue to actually rescue you. So that's why we train for rescue. I love it. I love it when like Hak5 or something like that talks about extreme outdoor wireless and they're still measuring their links in feet. In the wireless industry, particularly the outdoor wireless industry, the WISP industry, measuring wireless links in number of feet is a bit of a joke. Our longest link is 44. Our personal link is 44 miles. It goes from downtown Greenville, South Carolina, to Cashiers, North Carolina, and hits a mountain. Our building that we're on is a 335 feet building that's got a 35-foot tower on the top. So it is the second tallest building in the state of South Carolina. And we're not using cantina and antennas. We're not building these out of Pringle cans. We are buying commercial antennas that we then hook radios to. And actually, hold on a second. So the however, with the same equipment that we use right now, assuming we can get enough vertical elevation, the longest record length so far with this equipment is 140 miles. And that link did 155 megabits using 5 gigahertz. The link ran from a 8,500 foot mountain near LA to a 8,000 foot mountain just outside of Las Vegas. And they basically went mountaintop, mountaintop. The problem when you get at 140 feet or 140 miles is not trees, it's the curvature of the earth. So you have to get high enough to just compensate for the curvature of the earth. And it typically is in the neighborhood of several thousand feet mountaintops that you have to do that. The next is we just started recently using a new product from Ubiquiti called it is called the AirFiber 24 HD. It uses 24 gigahertz, which has very little interference on it because 24 gigahertz is so high in the spectrum that rain droplets attenuate it. So it's not. Also, walls do horrible things. So the frequency is special because home users would never use it. So we can use 24 gigahertz to deliver 2,000 megabits. That's aggregated both ways, or we can do 1 gig full duplex in the Greenville climate. We can do about 5 miles. And if you're out in the desert Southwest, where it is very dry, you could do 20 miles on the same frequencies. So it's a matter of the distance. So this is one of the antennas that we use. Let me make sure I'm in the camera. This is one of the sectors that we use. It is a 120 degrees wide. And this sector is what we install on a tower and allow clients to connect. This metal around it is aftermarket RF armor. These radios are inexpensive, or sorry, the antennas are inexpensive, so they don't have the best shielding on them. So if we were to mount 4 of these without RF armor, we would actually end up interfering with ourselves. So we install these aftermarket, and we can actually about double the performance because we cut the self-interference almost to nothing. This with the standard Rocket M5 from Ubiquiti, this sector can do about 75 megs aggregate. So that means all the clients connected to it can push about 75 megabits. When you're selling 3, 5, and 10 meg packages, we can fit about 30 customers on here before performance really starts degrading, and then we'll just put another one on the tower. And this package is not terribly expensive. I think it's about $500 for the radio, the antenna, the shielding, and the mount. So it's not crazy expensive. And this particular unit is a 19 dB. dB is a way of measuring the strength of basically the power gain of an antenna. And so the sectors are 19. However, the equipment that was used for the 140-mile link was a dish. It was a parabolic dish that was 34 dB. So a little bit about RF. So when I got to remember the rules because it's been a while since so when you go up 3 dB, no, it's when you go up 1 dB, you double the power. When you go up 3 dB, you 10x the power. So we're going from a 19 dB on this antenna to a 34 dB. So it is worlds different, and also it's much focused. So instead of spreading the RF energy out like this, it's like this. So that's how we're able to complete these long links. In the WISP industry, we cannot afford to pay for licensed spectrum like the cell phone carriers can. We don't have, 500,000 to get 500,000 or a couple of $1 million to get spectrum just in the city limits of Greenville, South Carolina. So we rely on unlicensed spectrum, particularly 5 gigahertz. Unfortunately, so do home routers. So does Comcast deploying their hotspots on telephone poles and stuff like that. So 5 gigahertz is a unique animal. About yes, it is attenuated by trees. So 5 gigahertz cannot penetrate trees at long distance. So that helps cut down a little bit of the interference from Comcast. But there are some operators of this equipment that in a Comcast urban area would do a channel scan and basically show all the access points that the antenna can see, and it'll be like it can see 300 access points that all belong to Comcast. Now there is some new frequency some frequency that's coming up under different rules now, and that's a 3.65. Some politician put a nice name on it as civilian citizens broadband or something like that, some fancy word that actually makes it more confusing. So essentially what it is what is unique about 365 is they're licensing it per census tract. So in an urban area, a census tract could literally be a block, one city block. So we can get exclusive use of part of that frequency for that city block. Or in a more suburban area, that might be a couple of square miles that we get exclusive use for that frequency. And it's relatively inexpensive to get those frequencies. Using the equipment that we would actually use for the unlicensed would be from a vendor called Telrad. The Telrad equipment is LTE based, so it uses the LTE spec, but it runs on 365. But it is still fixed wireless, not mobile cell phone roaming. And with that, with the LTE, we can do a single sector can do over 500 megs. So we can now compete directly with a Charter in both speed and price doing wireless. So LTE does add some latency. It would average about 30 milliseconds from the CPE, from the customer premise equipment mounted on the house to right as it exits our network. So If you're thinking latency to Google, you like Google's 888, you'd be looking at about 40 milliseconds. Yeah, and yeah. However, with the Ubiquiti equipment that we have in place right now, it is actually incredibly low latency. Um, Most of our wireless customers see single digit ping times to 8888, which is Charter's. I'm at home. I'm on Charter because I'm not in our service footprint, and the best I've ever seen is about 35 milliseconds to 8888. So we're doing single digits, which is pretty incredible, and the gamers love it. Yes, yes. We used to have Technica for 11 gigahertz. Okay, so did you follow the manufacturer's recommendation when they passed the link? Then if the antenna is aligned properly, then you should be getting the signal strength numbers that the spec sheet says. Then you should get the reliability that the spec sheet says. Which we have a SAF Technica link, which is 11 gigahertz, which is very similar to yours, and it's a 6 mile shot with two 3 foot dishes on both sides, and in the most heavy downstorm, it will drop one level modulation. Also,